The escalating tensions between the Trump administration and Ukraine have reached a critical point, marked by stark accusations and a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, in a recent Fox News interview, urged Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy to temper his criticism of the United States and seriously consider a proposed deal that would transfer a substantial portion of Ukraine's mineral wealth, valued at $500 billion, encompassing oil and gas reserves, to the U.S. Waltz characterized Ukraine's resistance to this proposal as unacceptable, reflecting a dramatic alteration in the U.S. stance towards its former ally. This stark shift is further underscored by the White House's direct instructions to Ukraine to cease its negative portrayal of Donald Trump and to promptly accept the resource-rich deal. Failure to comply, according to White House officials, will carry severe consequences. The implications of this ultimatum are profound, potentially jeopardizing Ukraine's sovereignty and economic future. The drastic change in U.S. policy raises serious questions about the underlying motives and the potential long-term repercussions for the region. The discord is further amplified by Trump's own inflammatory remarks. He labeled Zelenskyy a dictator resistant to holding elections, and he directly blamed Ukraine for the ongoing war. These pronouncements, far from being isolated incidents, represent a fundamental divergence from previous U.S. support for Ukraine and a troubling embrace of narratives aligning with Russia's propaganda. Zelenskyy, in response, accused Trump of existing within a Kremlin disinformation bubble, criticizing the lack of truthfulness within the Trump administration. This direct confrontation highlights the deep chasm that has opened between the two nations. The abrupt shift in U.S. support is strikingly evident in the cancellation of a press conference by Keith Kellogg, Trump's special envoy to Ukraine, during a visit to Kyiv. This action, viewed by many as a deliberate snub, serves to underscore the deteriorating relationship. Kellogg, considered one of the most pro-Ukraine members of Trump's entourage, was notably absent from a recent U.S.-Russia meeting in Riyadh, further emphasizing his marginalization within the Trump administration's foreign policy apparatus. A Ukrainian official, commenting on the situation, described Zelenskyy as highly motivated and engaged, yet simultaneously acknowledged the skepticism surrounding any potential peace deal with Moscow, given Putin's unaltered war aims. Adding to the complexity of the situation is Vice President J.D. Vance's assertion of progress in the talks with Russia, expressing optimism about a potential peace agreement. This claim, however, stands in stark contrast to the prevailing narrative and raises concerns about the transparency and reliability of the information being conveyed. The administration's actions suggest a deliberate attempt to undermine Ukraine's diplomatic efforts, treating it as an adversary rather than an ally. The Trump administration's hostile approach is not limited to bilateral relations. It extends to international forums. The White House reportedly blocked a G7 statement condemning Russia's aggression in Ukraine, objecting to the use of the phrase Russian aggression, and preventing Zelenskyy from addressing G7 leaders via video conference. This blatant obstruction of international consensus underscores the administration's determination to deviate from established norms and undermine support for Ukraine. In contrast to the Trump administration's stance, European leaders have continued to express support for Ukraine. Keir Starmer of Britain and Emmanuel Macron of France have offered their solidarity, while Zelenskyy highlighted a conversation with Denmark's Prime Minister, Mette Frederiksen, praising Denmark's unwavering support for a genuine and secure peace. This international divergence further exposes the isolationist stance adopted by the Trump administration. The Kremlin has enthusiastically welcomed Trump's unprecedented attacks on Ukraine, leveraging his false claim of Zelenskyy's low popularity rating, 4%, compared to the actual 57%. Dmitry Peskov, Putin's spokesperson, criticized Zelenskyy's rhetoric, highlighting the Kremlin's strategic exploitation of the strained U.S.-Ukraine relationship. The confluence of these events presents a grave concern for the future stability of the region, raising questions about the potential for further escalation and the viability of any peace initiatives under the current circumstances. The situation demands immediate international attention and concerted efforts to address the growing crisis. The deliberate undermining of Ukraine by the U.S. administration, coupled with the Kremlin's strategic manipulation, paints a deeply unsettling picture for the future of peace in Europe. The consequences of this dramatic shift in U.S. foreign policy remain to be seen, but the immediate implications are deeply concerning for Ukraine's future and the broader geopolitical landscape.